Good evening. I would like to welcome you to your City Commission study session. If you would please turn off or silence your cell phones during this meeting, that would be fantastic. Meetings are televised every day on Channel 2 at 6 p.m. and midnight, available for viewing on YouTube. So at this time, we'll open the study session and turn it over to you.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, Commission, the budget team is pleased to be here this evening during study session to present to you the 2025 through 2029 Capital Improvement Program budget. We're joined by the budget team, the Finance Director Roberta, her Deputy Finance Director Andrew, and our Assistant City Manager Penny is the budget team. We also had considerable input from all of the department directors and their various teams. We've been working on the budget now for probably 6 or 8 weeks. Prior to Mr. Kramer leaving, in anticipation of his leaving, he also had some participation in helping us set the foundations. We had a lot of good hard work over the last 6 or 8 weeks, and we're prepared to come this evening and visit with you about that. So just start with a couple of opening comments before we turn it over to the team. The City of Leavenworth is in a good, sound financial position. The budget was very difficult. We had a lot of requests by some items that were very much needed, but we were in a position of making decisions about what we need versus what we really, really need. No wants versus needs. I'll talk a little bit about the staff's assessment of the economy. We recognize that inflation is having pressure on the economy, and as a result of that, we see things like sales tax being down and not as much funds available. And the majority of the projects this evening that we're talking about are funded by sales tax. And so you will see that we had a lot of really tough decisions to make, worked really hard to get the best proposal possible. And so that's important. I want to talk just a little bit about a couple of things that you will see that's probably a little different from the last few years, starting with the Parks Department. Over the course of the last 5 or 6 years, the City of Leavenworth has spent quite a bit of time and money and investment in the Parks Department. I'll give you some examples of that. At Cody Park, we've built new playground equipment. We're currently building the pickleball court and the basketball courts. Havens Park was a bathroom. Hawthorne Park was the splash pad. Stubby Park was the shelter, bathroom, playground equipment, and then Woolman Aquatic Center, we did quite a significant revitalization of the features out there. And so, as we went into the discussions of this budget, we felt like it was important to scale back the expansion of the Parks Department and go over into sort of a more maintenance-based proposal. Mr. Bailey was here last week and talked about the need that we have at the indoor swimming pool needs quite a bit of attention in TLC. And so it's not entirely off the table with some projects, but we did sort of recognize maybe we need to scale down a little bit with the expansion and spend some time and money on investment on maintenance. And so you'll probably see that throughout the course of the budget tonight. The other significant piece that we want to talk about with you, and I'm driving this conversation, is some investment in IT. Mr. Kramer, Penny, and I, prior to him leaving for the last 4 or 5 months, had really spent quite a bit of time talking about the IT department. You might recall we created a department director level position that Marvin took that position. That's one of the gaps that we saw as we really were evaluating the organization, that we really need to close some gaps and identify some gaps. So in terms of investment in people and equipment, you will see some attention being given to that. I think if you look around the Kansas City area over the course of the last 4 or 5 months, you will have seen that the city of Kansas City was the victim of a malware attack, and they were really frozen for a while. Jackson County. Currently, right now, there's a significant attack taking place in Wichita, where both the city and some private sector companies are being infected by that. And so we have been particularly sensitive about that, want to make sure that the City of Leavenworth puts themselves in the best position possible and the least vulnerable in terms of that. So in terms of those things, as we start the conversation about the budget, we'll see that, and we feel pretty strongly that we need to at least talk about that and made some proposals to invest in that. And so in terms of that, that's sort of where we are with that. And then Roberta wanted me to remind you that we are making a little bit, sorry, Roberta, switch from to a pay-as-you-go with the pavement management system, and that we had been previously borrowing money and then paying that off. We're paying as we go, but we've created an accelerator into the pavement management program where every year we add a small percentage to that, so it's going up. However, Even if we do that, that's not enough in terms of putting us in a position where we would want to be ideally, but it does acknowledge that we need to spend a little bit more money in roads and pavement management. So those really are the big sort of three themes that you will see in terms of significant changes to the capital portion of the budget. And so just wanted to highlight those pieces to you. And so from this point, what I'd like to do is I'll turn it over to Roberta. She's going to remind you about some of the funding pieces and how all of that goes. And then we will sort of go down the list, and we will have department directors bring up their team, and we'll talk about the individual items. Obviously, certainly you could ask questions, interrupt if you have a particular question about something. And then at the end, I think we could probably save some time to sort of go around and see how everybody feels about it, and then go from there. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Roberta?
So, expanding on what Pat said, I was like, Chief, Pat, interim city manager. This is a discussion. This is not a lecture. So at any point in time that you want to know why we recommended or scheduled something, just let us know. It's best to talk about it as we go along. And as Pat said, there are items that we feel we need that are unscheduled on this budget. Each budget is isolated within its own fund. If you feel like we scheduled something up that you think should go back and you want to bring something forward, remember that has to happen within the confines of the fund. So we are going to talk about this on a fund-by-fund basis. I'll talk about funding for each fund as we get to it, rather than all of them at once.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to make sure you're checking in, you're here, and you're following along, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. Yes, sir.
Okay, so first we have the Capital Projects Fund, where a majority of our governmental type projects reside, meaning not the enterprise funds. The Capital Projects Fund is funded from the local sales tax fund and from the countywide sales tax fund.
I have this as page 1 in the binder.
It's page 1 in the binder. It's after the second tab, immediately after the second tab. So the very first light blue line is our estimated countywide sales and use tax revenue that is available for CIP projects. Remember from the revenue presentation that 85% of the countywide sales and use tax goes into this fund. The other 15% goes directly into the EcoDevo fund. The $3,391,774 in 2025 reflects approximately a 3% increase over the 2023 actual receipts. This is quite a bit lower than what you saw in the 2025 column last year when we talked about the 2024 to 2028 budget. We are budgeting a sales tax in 2024 to be flat, and then starting a 3% increase after that. Right below that, you see the money that comes directly out of the county, out of the sales tax prior to having any money available for projects. We have to pay the debt on Thornton Street, the business and tech park bonds, and then money gets transferred to the street fund for those projects. So we'll talk about those when we get there. But of the $3.4 million of countywide sales tax, $891,000 is available for new CIP projects that are not in the streets fund. We then have our local sales tax revenue. That's the same story, held it flat in 24, a 3% increase in 25. That is 1/4 of our 2% sales tax. So that's 0.5% of the local sales tax. It comes into the CIP, the Capital Projects Fund, and the rest of it goes to the general fund. From there, we use that money to fund our recreation program, basically to fill the gap. And we have two loans that we're paying, our bonds, the aerial ladder and the Parks temp note. The 2025 payment is the last of 3 Parks temp notes projects. We took out an $800,000 temp note, and that paid for all those projects, the Havens Park, the splash pad, the Stubby Park shelter, the Stubby Park restroom. And then one of the TIF funds gets a little bit of the sales tax based off of if the project earned more sales than it did in the original year. But anyway, of that 2.6 million, we have 348,000 available for CIP projects. So new money for CIP projects in 2025 is $1.24 million. We're going to go through all of these projects on these next few pages, but I want to do a skip to page 6. And on page 6, the third line up from the bottom says sales tax funds estimated year-end fund balance from previous year. So that $2.8 million is how much money I expect to be in this fund on January 1st, 2024. So that 2.8 million plus the 891,000 from the countywide sales tax fund and the 350 from the local sales tax fund is all of the money that's available for projects. If you...
Hey, one second. Ed, you have a question?
Yep, you said that's what you expect to be in the fund on January 1st, 2024.
January 1st, 2025. Thank you for
Okay,
that.
good.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. And then if you look at the very bottom row in black, that is the balance that if everything goes according to plan, which it won't, but if it did, that is the amount of reserves that will be in this fund at the end of each year. So you can see in 2027 is sort of a low point. Right? So if we spend any additional money other than what's in the schedule, those dollars will drop down, but we want to keep some reserves. All right? So we're going to start on page 1. We're just going to go through this one by one. And in fact, I think it's going to be easiest if you just turn to the next tab and then you'll have the individual pages that will tell you about each of the projects that we're going to talk about. And it starts with Brian and Hal. Do you need a book? Oh. He's got it.
Yeah, the first item on here is the City Hall maintenance. This is a continuation. We do this every year. We program in $75,000 per year just to handle ongoing maintenance of a building that turns 100 years old this year. So no change on that one. The LED upgrades, we started that in 2024. So it's a 24, 25, and 26 project. We programmed in $10,000 per year to do various facilities around the city. So again, no change here. This is the last 2 years of that 3-year program. Then there was the specific City Hall improvements, and I'll let Hal talk to those.
Ooh. I think. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. These are improvements to the HVAC system. The scrubbers are supposed to give us a cleaner air environment. This technology really became popular during the COVID era, but it is good technology, and it's a retrofit to existing equipment. It's not really any new equipment.
And then the second item is just some modifications of the first and second floor.
Oh, yeah, for security purposes, we're considering adding some added features or walls or something to limit access throughout the building.
And you've had problems with air circulation here in the past, haven't you, in this building?
Wouldn't say.
I just remember hearing, like, a few years ago about mold and other things that were in the air.
We never really found any.
Okay.
The biggest thing is we did last year
I know you were looking into
update the
that.
fresh
You were
air
looking into
system, which has helped.
Okay. Okay, good.
And the fourth item on the building and grounds is listed with the library maintenance.
Library. Yes,
This winter, we have dealt with some roof issues at the library, and speaking with American Roofing, they came to me after repairs, strongly suggesting that we do a polymer coating or urethane coating to the roof to give us another 15 to 20 years. Otherwise, they say we only got a year or two left, and a full roof replacement would be more like $500,000.
God.
And only give us a few years more than this urethane coating, which we actually have done a little bit of this at City Hall, and it seemed to have worked well here.
Good.
So we're recommending that this $100,000 is a much better approach. And then the last $11,000 is on the east side of the building. We have these metal panels, part of the exterior. The attachment points for those are failing, and it's gonna take roughly that much money for them to strip it down so that they can reattach the siding appropriately.
Any questions on building and grounds?
No.
Okay. The next item is our vehicle replacement program, is primarily the enterprise leasing program, and Penny's going to take the lead on that.
So from buildings to cars, this is the enterprise fleet lease program. The city started this in 2021. The goal is to have a more professional fleet, to reduce repair and maintenance costs, to take advantage of fuel savings with technology improving every year, and to take advantage of resale values from selling vehicles that haven't completely lost their value. It was a slow start. We've had trouble getting vehicles, but we're really seeing momentum in that program now as cars are becoming available. So we replaced a good amount of police vehicles, some of the pursuit-rated vehicles, Parks and Rec, Public Works. These are Ford F-150s, F-250s. These are code enforcement, so a lot of our city fleet is being transferred into this program. We estimate, again, it's been a little bit of a slow start, but the cost of that is about $450,000 per year. We'll get to some of the equipment on that later, but the goal is that the city is realizing some savings by doing this program. So I'm happy to answer any further questions if there are any on the program.
Okay.
Okay. Information technology, oh, he was here, he had questions about that. Okay. I thought he was next, until I turned the page. All right, and our IT director, Marvin, will be going through the capital improvements for the IT department.
So let me, real quickly, he asked a question, have we gotten all of the cars yet? So we are caught up in that the ones that we've been waiting on are here. We're now turning our attention to future years, this year and that year, and so we're in a better position than we were. We're not behind on the police car piece. There's some other wrinkles throughout the city, but we're in a better position today than we have been in a while. But now we need to keep the momentum going forward. Okay, sorry. Marvin, go ahead.
Thank you. So as we delve into the 25 budget, the IT CIP budget, I'd like to emphasize my commitment to maintaining a secure and efficient technology environment for the city. My efforts are to make the IT budget predictable over the next 5 years or a continuing 5-year period while maintaining prudent spending of our residents' tax dollars. We must become diligent with our cybersecurity and security awareness training and building a response team. As the chief mentioned, Casey Moe, Jackson County, Casey Scout, the city of Wichita, Kansas courts, and unified government have all been victims of cybersecurity recently. They must think governments have deep pockets. To minimize our risk, we must secure our perimeter and follow industry best practices and get current and stay current with all of our hardware and software components on our network. So everything on our network is a security risk, and we are taking a layered approach to cybersecurity. A layered approach deploys multiple security controls to protect our technology environment where a breach or cyber attack could occur. So as we go through this on page 19 is my first item. It's a computer equipment replacement. That's an annual program that's been in place to fund the life cycle of our IT equipment at the desktop. We need to execute a 4-year plan and begin replacing all PCs on a 4-year cycle. We need to maintain current operating systems on all these desktops in order to be able to patch appropriately, and Microsoft has end-of-life dates on all operating systems, and they stop patching at that time. So I'll stop after each one for questions. So any questions?
No.
So I'll turn this over to Chief Kitchens for
I'll take care of
page
this.
20.
The next, page 20 is a program about replacing our handheld radios. We've talked about this for the last several years. So the police department generally handles the radio equipment for the police department and all of the other entities within the city except for the fire department. So parks and codes, public works, streets all have handheld radios. And this is a scheduled replacement that's been ongoing for the last several years. So this will be the last 2025. We'll get everybody the latest handheld radio devices within the city. I think we have the Public Works Department scheduled up next to get their handheld radios done. And so that will complete that rotation of replacing everybody's handheld radios, the police department, except for the fire department, who has a little bit of a different system, a different kind of radio. And so that's what this is. We put it in there because it's sort of a strange little item that belongs to everybody, but basically it's a computer, so we put it in that line item, but that's what that accounts for. Okay?
So they still use, everyone still uses radios, not cell phones, or?
We use all of them. There are radios in the cars, there are cell phones, there are
Lots
handheld
of
radios,
okay.
smoke signals, you name it, we have it.
Okay.
Communication is the most important piece of anything that we do, so.
Yeah, we used radios when we were delivering trash bags with the city trucks,
Oh, okay.
so, yeah. Yep, and they're pretty handy.
On page 21 is replace desktop phones. This is a 25 project. IP phones, like computers, have operating systems, and they age out, and companies stop making firmware updates for those phones. And so we have put money in the budget for next year to replace some 15-year-old phones. On page 22, edge switches. This year we're replacing quite a few. I found a few more in some hidden closets in the county that are outdated and require some TLC. So this project actually has 2 entries, one for 25 for $30,000, and then life cycle purchase of next switches in the year 2029 to replace what we're replacing this year. Any questions on switches? Alrighty. Page 23 then is our core switches. Networks are very complex and many parts to make that allow us to be able to access the internet and get our email. So the core switches are the main switches in a network, and they are reaching end of life. So they're scheduled in 27. However, some of the functionality of them do not meet the needs that we have. So I'm evaluating what I need to do to bring those up to meet the requirements we have so we can increase our connections between the Justice Center here and the fire department.
So I'm just going to interject from our meeting today. I think what we may end up having to do, based on our meeting today, is move this $90,000 from 27 to 25, because the current core switches won't support the speed upgrades that we're trying to achieve. So we spent money to speed things up, but it's not working because of the old core switches. So this item might get moved forward. It won't change the overall dollars, but it might accelerate.
On page 24 then is UPSs. The UPSs live in the racks with all of our technology, and they're aging out. And the ones we have are smart, and they email me when they are in use, and with the weather recently, they've been getting used, so they are a very important part of what we have in our computer rooms. And they're scheduled for 27.
When you say they are smart, are you talking about this machine?
Yes,
Okay.
not as smart as we need them to be, but they know when they're in use and they tell me. On page 25 then are our firewalls. They are our first line of defense. And this is a life cycle upgrade then I'm looking at for 27. So the firewalls control all traffic in and out of our network. They're the first line of defense. They will keep the bad guys out. And this is one of the key components of our security plan. Any questions? Our nimble storage system, we're in the process of replacing that right now. Oh, I missed one, didn't I? Routers. Our routers are used to control the flow of traffic on the network, and they're really used for our telephone system. And they were replaced a year ago, and this is a life cycle purchase plan in 28. Our nimble storage system, this is just putting in the budget for 25, a replacement of what we're currently replacing, and helping Roberta plan for the future. The Wi-Fi on our network is due in 29. We currently provide Wi-Fi in 15 locations, and it will be time to make some upgrades. And 29 is upgrade the AV capabilities in this room. We've met and would really like to bring this room up to a different level of technology. And our goal might be to find some pieces that we can do individually. But I put it out there in 29 because we don't have a full plan yet of what we want that to look like.
Trying to get us some surround sounds.
It's been a bit of a piecemeal system, as everyone knows. We've added cameras at one point, then separately added microphones, then separately added televisions, and you've experienced this. We've had people in the audience who've had trouble hearing because we don't have functional speakers. We're afraid to turn them on for feedback, for what it'll capture online. So in some ways, it'd be ideal to have more of a coordinated system that all work together. It's on here as unscheduled, but it's just something that we wanted to bring to the attention of the commission. So it's something we're probably gonna have to do at some point.
Any questions for Marvin about the IT piece?
No.
You're gonna turn it into a theater?
Sure.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry.
Yeah, just real quick, Marvin, on the replacement of the nimble storage system that you got for $500,000, is that kind of just a general estimate right now?
It is. That's taking what we're currently installing and adding a small percentage in the future. So as we go forward in the future, I will be able to look at that number and see if it's relative. It's hard to guess 5 years out what technology will be available and
Right.
because I'm sure we're going to replace it with something that's not invented yet.
Sure. Okay, no, I appreciate that, thank you.
Sure.
No.
Oh, you didn't? I just wanted to, just very quickly, again, I've been driving this conversation, from this chair about the need for IT. And in fairness to Marvin, he hadn't been here for the full year yet. He's, 4 or 5 months into it now. And so to sort of answer the mayor's point, he's done a lot of work to get us to where we are in this very short period of time, but we have plans to continue to talk, continue. So this piece is likely to move a little bit, where things may move up and that sort of thing. But The overarching issue is the IT department needs some attention. We need to get ourselves in a better framework and position to be less vulnerable. And so I feel like Marvin will have a much better handle probably at this time next year in budget time, a little bit more accurate, better pieces of, technology to get ourselves in a good shape.
You're also seeing us plan ahead.
Thanks, Marvin.
Which in the past, it would be, oh, we need this now, it's end of life now. Marvin's trying to help us really plan ahead so these things are scheduled, so we know, okay, well, if it's 5 years of a lifespan, then we should plan for it 5 years from now. So this might look different than what we've done in the past, but it's less, we need this now, and more, let's plan for the future.
Marvin, do your UPSs, the ones you have now that are smart, do they also tell you, here's when I'm gonna not be able to do this anymore?
I think, well, I've not experienced that yet, but I would believe that when they're getting low on their battery power, they would tell you that. At City Hall, we have generator now, so
Yeah,
we only need them to buffer
Short,
electricity for a short time.
good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Julie Hurley to talk about the 7th Street Corridor Study.
Okay, thank you. This is a grant match request for Mid-America Regional Council's Planning Sustainable Places program. They have just opened their call for proposals for 2025. Those proposals are due next month. Those will be awarded in September, and work will get going next year on them. And so what this is this is gonna be a corridor study for 7th Street corridor. It's one of our main corridors through town that could use a little bit of love. There's a lot of existing uses and businesses, and it's just kind of a hodgepodge right now. So this would take a look at what we can realistically do in that corridor to really make it, a nice thoroughfare through town leading up into Fort. And so this is one of those studies that we need to have in place. We need to have this done so that then we can move forward and be eligible for grants that would actually fund the projects that could be identified through this. So again, this is just a grant match through Mark. We've never had a Planning Sustainable Places grant funded in Leavenworth County. I don't think any have ever been applied for, so we're hopeful that we should have a pretty good shot at getting that awarded.
So, that'd be good.
That would be awesome. Okay.
Questions? Thanks, Julie.
Thanks.
All right, Dan Nicodemus is going to talk about the police department's CIP requests.
Good evening. Police Department has several items tonight for the capital improvements program. First one being a narcotics test equipment. Currently, when an officer goes on a call or does an investigation, they can run into narcotics out there on the street. Usually they need to do some preliminary testing of the narcotic to determine what course of action to take, whether it's enforcement, etc. The current method requires some sort of manipulation of the drug, which is not always the safest thing to do. But with the technology advances, we've identified this piece of equipment, which will allow us to test the narcotic without actually handling it. To simplify it, it emits light, which can be directed through the package that the narcotic is in, and then analyze it that way through the light source. And it'll tell you what the narcotic is, whether it's a drug, whether it's a precursor, whether it's a cutting agent, those types of things. The True Narc is about $35,000, and that will allow us to be a lot safer with the handling and testing of the drugs out there, especially with the fentanyl problem that's going on out there. That's very dangerous. It doesn't take very much to do some major damage. So any questions about this piece of equipment?
Would this identify fentanyl too, or just cocaine derivatives?
It actually will test up to around 500 different types of narcotics and cutting agents. So yes,
Great.
fentanyl is definitely in that list. Yeah.
That's good.
And that's for one, right?
Yeah.
So where will you keep this and just?
So those details will be worked out, but likely it would be assigned to an on-duty supervisor. And that way, if the officer runs into that in the field, the supervisor would respond. And, yes.
That sounds like a real That's a good thing to have, yep.
And would this expedite the court cases? Like, once, because I know a lot of times when drugs are confiscated, it goes to the lab, or would this eliminate that, or that process still be?
It wouldn't eliminate it, but
Okay.
yes, it can accelerate it because sometimes there's unknown, you don't know what you have until you
Correct.
send it off to a lab for testing. And so there's that delay while you're waiting for the test results to come back. This can tell us what we're working with right away, and that information will be in our reports, get to the prosecutor, and make a charging decision in a much quicker manner. The drugs would still be sent off to a lab for testing, but yeah, it can accelerate the process there.
We don't have a lot of false positives and.
No, not really, but the current testing system that we have is kind of archaic. One, it requires you to place a little bit of the narcotic into a pouch with a chemical in it, agitate it, and then it'll turn a certain color. So there's some sort of, there's a process there where the officer's got to make a judgment call on the color, and very limited information with what it could be. It generally classifies it in a range of narcotics versus specific like this.
This would be more accurate
Yeah.
than all. I think it sounds like a good thing.
Yeah.
The next item we have for you tonight is SWAT communication headsets for our SWAT team. Currently, they kind of use a two-part system, one being hearing protection over the years for some of the assignments that they're on, and then the other part would be radio communication. So they have hearing protection now, and then a headpiece, earpiece that goes in the inner ear under the hearing protection. Those items are starting to wear out. They're in need of replacement. We've already had to repair a few. This purchase will allow us to buy a headset that integrates not only the hearing protection, but the radio communication with it, making it more reliable, making the communication that much better, which is pretty critical given some of the assignments that the team is going to have.
How old are some of the current units?
So they're about 5 years old.
Okay.
And those things wear out. You're dealing with, on the earpieces, you're dealing with thin wires and rough environments, a lot of agitation, and, the training, because they use those not only when they're out on real world calls, but they also train like they would respond. So those things get a lot of wear and tear and training as well.
Okay, I was just curious about some of these things. I've asked for this before, that we give, when we're replacing equipment, replacing things, that we have the dates that we, the age of them, So maybe next year we look at that.
Sure.
How many does 25,000 get?
So
How many
there-
headpieces for 25,000?
It's 15 operators, yeah. Next item is a hostage negotiation team throw phone. When our hostage negotiation team goes out on calls, could be for barricaded subjects, could be for a hostage situation where they need to communicate with an individual, try to de-escalate the situation, and bring about a peaceful resolution to the incident. Our current throw phone is broken. It is at least 25 years old from what we can determine. So that's one part of the system. The other part of the system is a recorder with hearing devices. One for, it has two earpieces, so you could have two people listening in on a conversation at the same time. This equipment that we're asking to replace that with is a system that has a modernized throw phone with a lot of features to it that we can deploy into a house or wherever the person is that we need to be able to talk to and communicate with them and control the communication to bring about that peaceful resolution. On the other end, it allows the team, the hostage negotiation team members, to communicate amongst each other in real time without having to stop and tell them what they just heard on the phone, or to be able to write something. Not only can multiple people listen in and communicate with each other at the same time, they don't have to be next to each other to do it. So you could have someone at headquarters, you could have somebody on the SWAT team. This would allow us to greatly improve our communication on these types of calls.
Okay.
This equipment also records and documents the incident, from everything that was discussed on the phone, all the notes between the negotiators, and that kind of thing. Any questions about the throw phone system? Okay. This one kind of circles back to the fleet management program, specific to the police department vehicles. When we replace our patrol cars, especially when there's a model change of the vehicle, we need to replace the light bars, the cages, that type of equipment that's in the cars. What fit in a Charger won't fit in an Explorer or fit in a Durango. So that's the reason for replacing things like cages, prisoner transport seats, light bars don't fit on the same, or different models of vehicles. Also, we upgrade the old MDTs and in-car cameras with new ones. And this money will allow us to be able to do that on the new cars. There's also money included in this line item for installation. So that would be tearing the old equipment out, what we're going to reuse, and then putting all that stuff into a new patrol car. And this is slated for $110,000 next year.
Can I add something real quick? So in the previous budget, capital improvement programs from last year, this number was $95,000 a year. We're increasing it in 2025 and 2026 because costs are going up. And then you see it drops down to $40,000 a year. So after 2026, the goal is all of the leased vehicles that the police department will have been received, and then we're gonna start recycling them. Our goal is to be able to buy at least the same model and move the equipment from one vehicle to the next vehicle. But unfortunately, because there was it was so difficult to get vehicles for the police department, all of the models aren't the same. Mm-hmm. So we added the $40,000 a year after 2026 to acknowledge that we may end up getting a different model and may have to replace one of these or two or whatever. And also there will be installation costs even if we can use the same equipment. So in the previous budget, after we outfitted all the cars, we didn't have any more money in the budget, and that just wasn't realistic. We expect there will always be an annual charge or fee or money needed for replacing equipment in police cars.
Thank you, Roberta. Yeah, our goal is to get 2 life cycles out of the equipment.
Yeah.
So,
Do we contract out the installation of everything?
We do 911
Yes.
custom.
There's a company called 911 Custom that we have them do that for us. They take out the old equipment and put in the new stuff. And that's part of the enterprise leasing agreement.
And then do they get the old stuff?
We own it, we keep
No,
it.
we own it. and
We own
keep
it, we can do with it, okay.
Right, and so it is interesting with enterprise, when you're leasing the vehicle, but all of the aftermarket things that we are attaching to the vehicles, we're paying for those.
Right.
We could add it to the lease, but I don't want to pay interest on
Sure.
stuff that we can afford to purchase and it's going to be, that we own. So, so that is, we do purchase these things outright.
And then when we take it out, we give the car back to Enterprise.
We give the car back to Enterprise.
They love all those extra holes.
They're well aware of these, of what's happening.
Yeah, of what's gonna
Yes.
be, yeah.
sometimes we're able to leave like a cage in there, because it'll be another police agency that buys that car. And rather than have us try to sell the cage separately to someone, another department will buy it, more likely to buy it if it's already partially equipped like that.
And there is a delay, a significant delay sometimes between Enterprise bringing the car to 911 Custom and us actually receiving it. Our first lease payment, first day of leasing doesn't start until the vehicle's delivered to us fully with all of the equipment on it. We do not start paying that lease when it gets to 911 Custom.
Good. Thank you.
Any other question? The next item on our list is the Bearcat Armored SWAT Vehicle. Our current SWAT vehicle is about 20 years old now. We got it back in 2004. Use it on a lot of calls and incidents to protect the officers and to protect the community on that. The manufacturer of the armored car, Lenco, recommends a replacement of the vehicle about every 15 years. So we're beyond that at this point.
Okay.
Some of the problems that we've been having with the current armored car include some leaking of the window seals and door seals. There's been a kind of a recurring problem with the turbo on the engine, which is required to operate that vehicle at highway speeds. So if we were going to an emergency call that required the highway speeds, we could be a little bit behind there. And also we've noticed some delamination of the glass, which is bullet resistant glass, bulletproof glass. So that stuff has started to break down over the years, and it's time to replace the vehicle with a new one. The new one will have a lot of features that the old one didn't. Things such as it'll be a 4-door vehicle versus basically a 2-door, which gives our team more options to deploy out of the vehicle on different sides. The vehicle will have a hydraulic ram, which can be operated from within the vehicle without having to get out and manipulate it by hand. We're able to deploy gas from inside the vehicle into a structure if that's something that we had to do. Other little features, simple things like gun ports are a different size and shape that will be much more compatible with our weapons sighting systems that the SWAT guys are using. This particular request we've put on the list for 2026. We realize it's a $400,000 purchase, and that gives us a little bit more time to be able to buy that. There's a note on there about possibly a $200,000 grant from Mark. These grants are something that the police department is always looking for to help acquire equipment, especially really expensive equipment like this. I know we've recently talked about the bomb team equipment and the robot. So the $200,000 is obviously contingent upon any grant opportunities that we might be able to find out there that we're currently working on. Don't have anything settled in stone yet for that, but again, that's a 2026 request for $400,000. Our last item is the bomb suit for the bomb team. This item we had previously in the CIP budget, and last week you guys approved the application for the 2024 Burn discretionary grant for bomb replacement equipment. That is in progress right now. I've submitted the initial application, and there's a second part to do. We should hear back within about a month, maybe 6 weeks or so. And then if that is in fact approved, then this can be crossed off the list for the CIP program and those funds used elsewhere.
Is that
You
you
have
in
one
there?
bomb
One more time.
suit?
Is that you in there?
That is not me.
Okay.
There's too much gray in the mustache.
Oh,
You have currently one bomb suit,
We have two.
and how old are they?
So one is
Brand new.
brand new.
Bought it this year.
And then the
Yeah,
other one, I
that's
think,
right.
is 3 years old.
3 years, okay.
So we're a couple years away, because that's a 5-year life cycle on those.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Dan about the police department items?
Thank you.
I don't think so.
thanks, chief.
Okay, thank you. Up next is the Chief Birch from the fire department. was a down power line, by the way, all the questions about the fire truck out there, that's what that was.
Oh, okay,
That was a down power.
okay.
Good. All right.
Hi.
How
Hi.
y'all doing?
Chief?
2025, we started 2 years ago replacing some of the garage door openers at the stations, and it's got a thing on it too that it's when it's goes up, it turns, when it gets up high enough, it turns green. Sometimes when you're looking out that truck, you can't see the door because of the boom or something sticking out front. So we started replacing, we had a lot of maintenance costs, they're over 20 years old, so we've been systematically replacing those at Station 1 and Station 2. Self-contained breathing apparatus, SCBA's, those are probably our number one protective equipment that we use on the fireground and stuff. Allows us to go inside, there's smoke and toxic gases to extinguish the fire, or other types of incidents where there's a toxic atmosphere. We purchased those, actually it was 10 years ago. It was in the process when I got here, so they're 10 years old. We have a lot of maintenance issues with them, so we always got packs down and stuff, so we're looking to replace those. And then the portable radios, and we're asking for $16,000 to replace all the batteries. The radios seem to be working okay, but the batteries, we put them on a charger, that kind of reconditioner, and they won't fully charge. The batteries are just worn down, so we want to replace all the
You
batteries.
skipped over
Yeah.
the concrete driveway at Fire Station number 2.
Oh, but that doesn't shoot in order, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. Yes, in 2023, towards the end of the year, we replaced Station 1, the back pad of Station 1, and we're currently, we just got through replacing, in fact, we're not even driving on it yet, they just replaced the front apron at Station 1, and then our next plan is to replace the apron, the drive at Station 2 at 10th and Shawnee. I went up and looked at, last year we had talked about going ahead and doing Station 2, but the drive at Station 1, the front was a lot worse shape. Over the years, Public Works helps us out. They come and put some asphalt in it. Station 2, when I was up there looking at trying to determine which one to do this year, they look like they put some kind of a tar sealer over it, the asphalt, and it's holding up really good. So we pushed that out a little bit for that station. And then I mentioned the portable radios.
Yeah, so now we're to the lockers.
Yeah, so then, and we started, when them stations were built, Station 1 and 2, they were like wooden lockers with particle and stuff, and they were falling apart. And several years back, we did replace a bunch of them, but we still need some to finish, so we thought we'd go ahead and ask for that to kind of finish that out at Station 2 on the lockers. They're just worn out. And we go back with like a metal locker, not the
Makes
wood.
sense.
Yeah, so.
Makes sense, yeah.
And then we put in a security system at Station 1 and 2. Basically, we got a thing like this. We just swipe the door to get in. And we had talked about that. When the apparatus bay doors are up, when a truck goes out, they're on a timer, but sometimes it takes a while. So it's easy access to walk in and go right into the station, And
Okay.
so we secured those doors and stuff. And then they have another thing, the same system, you can add cameras. And so down the road, we'd like to put some cameras, Station 1 and 2, to kind of focus on the parking lots and stuff. We don't have fences around it. Just if something does happen, car gets broke into or something, that would really help actually the police, even maybe to help identify somebody on that. So we'd like to do that down the road a little bit. And then the apparatus replacement, we currently have one pumper we ordered 2 years ago, and it's taken 3 to 4 years to get these things now. It don't take them that long to make it. It just, you're kind of in line when they get started. Engineering takes probably 9 months or so. Then they actually, once they get on the line, they can do it usually in 2 months. But we kind of started several years back about doing a 15-year replacement on the trucks. And so if we order in 2029, the 07s, we shouldn't get them until 2032. That's when we pay for them. So we kind of got to order ahead so that when we, planning out that 3 to 4 years to build time. So we kind of had to change our strategy. And we've got one now that's 2007, so when we replace it, it'd be 25 years old. But we've got one coming, should be here hopefully in 2 years, so that'll help offset that on that truck. So the cost there, everything is, they just keep going up and up and up. So the last one we bought was around 820,000. So I just, they kind of tell me, just figure 3-5% a year, so I just kind of estimated $1 million. That number is subject to change in 2029.
Yeah, thank you.
I believe that's it.
Anything else for the fire chief?
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
So just thinking out loud while we're doing a quick switch here, we got a couple items from engineering and public works. I thought maybe a 10-minute break or a 5-minute break before we get started with parks and rec, which might be a little bit. Is that okay? Does that sound okay? Or is everybody feeling okay? We can go. Just kind of thinking a little bit.
It's fine. Can we turn the heat on?
Freezing. We're always freezing.
Are you cold?
Yeah, freezing. I'm gonna have to get up and walk around, my feet are going to sleep.
I'll make some
Sarah,
hot
can you grab the
cocoa. If
thermometer?
anybody want any hot cocoa?
See if we can.
Oh, my gosh.
Something breaking or?
I thought we were gonna go a couple more
oh, yeah,
minutes.
yeah,
A couple more
yeah,
minutes
yeah,
and then take
yeah.
a break. How about that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, on page 44 is our GPS unit replacements, under $20,000 in 2025. In 2025, the unit will be 10 years old. As talked with IT in 10 years, technology has changed significantly. We use this all the time. We use it for storm sewers, sanitary sewers, take that data in the field, and then we move that into our mapping system, our GIS system. That's a critical component for us, so time to upgrade that. Then the biannual bridge inspection. This is actually a requirement of the Federal Highway Administration that we do inspect our bridges every 2 years. A bridge is defined as anything 20 feet or greater in opening. Currently, the city has 39 structures that we inspect. 26 are on the National Bridge Inventory. About 13 structures are just under 20 feet, but it's important that we do inspect those. If it's 21 feet or 19 feet, if it fails, it fails. So we want to make sure that we do inspect all of those. That number's been running about 40,000 in the past. We've bumped it up to 45,000, and we do it in the odd years, so 25, 27, and 29. Next item is plotter replacement we have up in engineering. We use this all the time. We can scan full-size documents. We can scan plans from 100 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
And put
that's
those on
really
our
cool.
system. We print out new projects on this, and also we have a lot of requests for maps, whether it's within engineering or parks or wherever, or Pat. We print out our maps, and again, this has reached its life expectancy, so we're looking to replace that in 2025 also.
How old is it?
It's right at probably 10 years old.
10 years. Thank you.
Questions about the engineering issues?
I'm surprised it's only 15.
Becky, yeah?
Sure.
You see a lot of different pieces of equipment going out through 2029. I want to concentrate on 2 for 2025. I'll let Becky talk to those.
You know, I've never done this before, so it might be a little rough. That's our current skid steer. It's a 2008. It has, I forget how many hours on it. Do you remember, Derek? 3,800 hours. I couldn't remember. Wheel loader, we want to trade it in for a track loader. Just easier to get around on a track loader.
And basically, there was a rubber tire, and so we get, when we're doing ditch work or anything like that, we tend to spin when we have the rubber tires. And so when we go with this track configuration, it's a lot more stable, gets us in and out of areas that we normally couldn't do with the rubber tire.
Yeah.
We used
Makes sense.
the solid waste skid loader this year to help clean up the homeless camps down there between the river and the community center. And that had tracks, and that was critical. Otherwise, we would have just been hung up in the mud. cost is estimated at $89,000. The other one we want to talk about is our brine de-icing sprayer with boom.
Yeah, so currently we have our large brine tank on a 1992 truck that's a manual transmission. Our CDL holders don't have manual transmission. We only have like 2 that are able to drive that truck. So we was gonna purchase this and put it in one of our tandem trucks and anybody can drive it.
And we've, in the last couple of years, we've talked about when we do our snow policy in the fall, we really started a lot of pre-treating. We really think that helps because that actually kind of melts, stops that bond between the ice and the pavement, so it's a lot easier treatment. So we've had real good luck with that, and pretty much all communities are going with a heavy de-icing front. Any other questions?
No.
Thank you.
One other item, I think, on engineering. EV charging station, this is an out years. The picture here is taken from across the parking lot. When that was reconstructed a couple years ago, they put EV chargers there. When we redid the parking lot on the east side of City Hall this year, we actually put conduit under the pavement. So it allows us to install 2 additional chargers in the parking lot. But we feel that with the EV mandates that are coming down the line and the push for that, we will end up having electric vehicles at both the service center and at WPC. And so we feel it's important to go ahead and program in funding for that. There are a lot of grants for that. And so we put it in 2029, we estimate about $39,000.
Good.
Questions about that from engineering? Okay. If it's okay, we'll take a 5-minute break, is that okay? So 5 minutes? Okay.
Go right around again.
Did we get the
Good evening. Good to be here with you. Brian and I will work together in tandem to go through this short Parks and Recreation list. The first 6 items all fall under the category of the Riverfront Community Center renovations and repairs. The first one is the modernization of the elevator. The elevator has not been upgraded since it was installed in the building, opened in 1988. Some items, replacement items have become very difficult to get replaced, the rollers and things like that. There is a main brains controller board, if you will, that's blacked out a few times. Our maintenance elevator company has indicated that there's a great possibility at some point that could fail completely, and it's not replaceable also. So that is the first one, the elevator modernization. Brian gave you a great overview at last week's meeting about the indoor pool restorations. Obviously, a lot of that is all original, again, from when it opened in what, as you all know, is a very, very tough environment. As Brian mentioned last week, we do have that scheduled to do over in 2 phases, over 2 years, in 25 and 26 is how it's on this program. The scheduled equipment replacement, this is for the weight room and the cardio room. Years back, we brought a whole package to the CIP to talk about replacing very antiquated equipment, especially in the weight room. And it's a big ticket item. So we kind of went back to the drawing board and thought it made some sense to replace 4 or 5 different universal weight sets or things in the cardio room over the next 4 or 5 years. For this year, we've talked to some of our daily users and said, hey, which universal sets? In fact, we had to actually replace one out of budget this year that failed. But which ones are used the most? Which ones are the most antiquated? Which ones fail the most? Which ones we have the most problems with? So we're kind of getting right from the horse's mouth, so to speak, the patrons for the ones that we're looking at for this year. And we'll do that annually until we get caught up. And then hopefully, if we're able to program this throughout this 5-year program, then we will be caught up. And our oldest piece of universal equipment, anyhow, would be 5 years old. There's nothing wrong with the free weights. Free weights are free weights. And we replace them every now and then. But overall, so that's what that is. We think it's a great idea to get us caught up as opposed to one big knock to the CIP on that. The next item is pool area painting. This is not included in the indoor pool restorations. It was already a scheduled item in the CIP, which is not why it wasn't added or part of the pool restorations. It has expanded some from the original. This is all of the ceilings and the walls and the locker rooms. All the ductwork. If you look in there, well, there's a couple walls that never have been painted. They're just bare concrete. It includes those. And then some of the oxidation that's occurred on the ceilings and the ductwork and everything. It includes painting all of that. The indoor track, let me keep up here with the indoor track is probably, and it's not even really close, the most used asset in the Parks and Recreation. That track gets used every single day that we're open. Yeah. The existing one was installed in 2009. Wow. So it's 15 years old. If you look at the pictures in there, you can see where it's coming up some at the seams. It's not a safety hazard yet or problem, but it's certainly something that we need to look at, and it looks like we have that scheduled out for 2027. But definitely gets a lot of use daily, and really a fantastic asset for the city. To have that.
You think it'll last till 2027?
The way it currently is now, it's coming up, and the pictures that I included are the worst. Like I said, if they become a safety issue, we will certainly increase the urgency on it for sure.
Is that a rubberized mat?
So it has layers underneath it. Yeah, and then I'm not exactly sure what the surface itself is.
Oh yeah, I don't mean was it really made of, but it's got a soft edge. Yeah.
Correct. So, yeah, so it makes it easier on the joints, you know,
Yeah.
it's not like you're running on
Big deal.
asphalt or concrete. So, yeah, it's a neat asset for the city. The next one is the gym floor replacement. The current gym floor was installed in 2003. It's actually held up really, really well.
That was after flood, wasn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, one of several. But it's held up really well, and, you know, it's got a few holes in it and a few bubbles in it, nothing major, nothing, and is why it is unscheduled at this time, but we felt it's something, you know, just because of the sheer age of it, probably needs to be put on the radar, you know, so that, you know, hey, it's 21 years old, and you know, we'll keep an eye on it, you know, I'm not gonna be here forever, you know, whoever, so we wanted to go ahead and put that on the radar. So, any questions on the community center things before I turn over to Brian to talk about some equipment?
Hey, Steve, can
Sir.
we talk about our plan of the modernization of the elevator and the swimming pool at the same time? May needing to close the community center or the pool
Sure.
for a period of time? Just to talk about that a little bit, just to plant the seed.
Sure, so originally, the modernization of the elevator was scheduled for this year. As I got to talking about the process of that, the elevator will be down for close to a month in time length. So as we talk more about that, it's our main avenue of accessibility for the pool. You know, there's other ways we can get disabled to restroom facilities and stuff, but as far as the aquatic center, we do have, or the pool, we do have the track that go, or the ramp that goes around back, but that's less than ideal. So as we talked about that, and we talked about the pool restorations, because the pool will be closed for a good length of time also, probably a good portion of the summer. Now, our thought process is to do those restorations during the summer while we have the outdoor pool open. So for people who, you know, you can still do aquasize and swim laps and stuff like that. So that's kind of our plan, is to coincide the two together. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
But I think the broader issue is that it may be closed for, 3 months, 4 months maybe,
Yeah.
while we're doing it. And so we just wanted to sort of, make sure that we're starting those conversations in combination with the idea that we got a couple of big projects all at the same time. It probably would be easier just to do that, to get it all over with at once, and just kind of bite the bullet and do all of it at once. But we're working through that, and we just want to talk about that.
So how will people go to the bathroom downstairs? Don't they usually take the elevator to the bathroom?
So we'll have to come up with as far as accessibility.
Yeah.
We'll have to come up with a different idea for that. And it's less than ideal, but it might include a accessible porta potty or something like that. Yeah.
But you said the elevator would only take about a month. It would be all the
Right.
other restorations, it would take longer.
Right, correct. So for however long the elevator would be down. Able-bodied folks obviously still be able to use the stairs, but we would figure out what we needed to do on that.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's, definitely less than ideal.
Right.
But, sometimes construction and, and it's looking into the future, here it is, 36 years old, everything's in there. So if we can get all this upgraded, and hopefully for another 36 to 40 years, for sure.
So are you actually talking about closing down the RFCC for 3 to 4 months?
No, sir, just the pool. Just
Okay, the
yes.
pool.
Correct.
And the elevator for about a month.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. We would provide access through probably the south doors, which we've done in the past as temporary access for any, if there's any wheelchair accessibility that needs for the basement. So, and we always have staff in there, obviously, that can go around and help people in that way.
Good. Thanks.
Sure.
That's good.
All right, I'll get into some equipment. The first one on our list is snow removal equipment. This piece of equipment was bought in 1999, so it's fairly old. This is what we use to plow downtown sidewalks around all of our parking lots, down some Delaware crossings, and so forth. As you can see in the pictures, it's old, and so it's time to replace it. We haven't had too many problems with it yet, but it's getting harder and harder to find parts for it when we do. So that's scheduled for next year, 2025. Next is a 2-column post equipment lift. So in our Parks and Rec department, we have a parks mechanic, and that mechanic works on all of our lawnmowers, ball field machines, gators and so forth. And the way he has to do it right now is if it breaks down, he puts it on some jacks and gets underneath it, which is not very safe.
Not good.
So this will eliminate some of that safety. It'll make it easier for our staff to work on equipment, and also help us work on it faster. So that is what you see here, and that's for next year as well. All right, next on the list is the park service truck. Through the process of going through the enterprise fleet, we figured out that it's just not cost prohibitive to go through enterprise fleet. So we've come up with a service truck for our parks department. We already have a service truck currently. This truck is about 15 years old. I don't exactly have the year on it. But we use it to go out in the field to work on mowers that break down, flat tires, pull equipment out of ditches, work and weld on things out in the field and so forth. So that is the need for this truck in the CIP. And we have that scheduled out in 2027.
Okay, makes sense.
Just want to make sure I keep up with everything here. All right, next on the list is our 16-foot self-propelled aerial mower. You see this out in our parks all the time mowing. We bought this in 2017. It's starting to show its age. When we bought it, the life expectancy was 10 to 15 years. With this mower here, we're seeing that happen a little bit faster than we'd like. But for right now, it's still holding its own. We have it scheduled for replacement in 2027. This is vital to our department. You know, we have 424 acres of parks, and we mow almost 200 some acres. And part of that's contracted out. And without this mower, we'd have to have 4 more staff, 4 more mowers, 2 more trucks and trailers. You know, it just keeps going on and on. So it's a big price tag, but once you start breaking it down in the long run, it's the best way for us to go.
Yeah. 16 feet.
The next one you're going to see is our 11-foot self-propelled mower. We bought this one in 2016. It's a John Deere mower. It's held up very well, but is also starting to get age on it, and we need to look at replacing it. We have it scheduled out in 2019 or 2029. The way it sits right now, it should make it there. If it doesn't, we might have to look at bumping it up, but for right now, I'm pretty confident that we'll make that distance.
Okay.
Any questions for equipment before I move on? All right. The next one is the annual trails allotment. Since we've started this, about 3 or 4 years ago, basically what we've done on this is we'll come to the city commission late summer, early fall, with some ideas and present at a study session what we want to do for the next year. This year, we're doing trail work out at 10th Avenue Park, as well as some trail repair, some seal coating, and crack sealing out there. So that's what this entails. We'll bring 3 or 4 ideas to you all and decide where we want to go next year with it, and then that allows us to get going on the bid process. In the asphalt business, we've found that the quicker at the beginning of the year you get a bid out, the better they come in as people are filling up their schedules. The next one on the list is the asphalt seal coating for parking lots, and this is at 4 different parks, and this is to seal coat over the asphalt to increase the longevity. We're looking at David Brewer Park, Ray Miller Park, Sports Field, which is obviously a big one, and then the soccer complex. This is just for seal coating all of those to extend the life of the existing asphalt.
Okay.
Next is the Cody Park pickleball court shade system. We did not include this in the pickleball, in the bid process and the whole construction package for two reasons. For number one, we wanted to make sure we got everything that we needed for the courts, the fences, the walkways, everything that's going out there, the lighting, all of that. The second reason is we wanted to get the park constructed to see where it makes sense to put this. Does it make sense to put it up by the restroom facility? Does it make sense to, where's going to be the main viewing area for participants or that are waiting for the next game? What makes sense? So we thought it made some sense to come in on the back side of this, on the shade structure out of the pickleball.
Need shade, they need shade.
We did, unfortunately.
You don't have shade with the tennis court.
We did until all those trees started dying on us, and then unfortunately, which I'm sure you remember those,
Yes,
Commissioner
I do.
Bowder. And then unfortunately, and when constructing this, we had to remove a couple of really nice, big, beautiful trees.
Okay.
But
We'll give them some shade. I have to give them shade in there.
the next one, and as Pat referred to at the beginning when we were talking tonight, we're not looking at a whole lot of new items, but this next item is not only new, but it's exciting as heck, and it's really low-hanging fruit for the amount of dollars that goes into developing a disc golf course. We can really serve a lot of public.
I like this idea, yeah.
Yeah, we threw those 9 baskets out at Ray Miller Park just internally, and you see people out there all the time.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So we met up with a gentleman. His name is Scott Reek. He designs disc golf courses, and he's designed several in the Kansas City area that they hold tournaments on. So this will be a competitive level disc golf course. So the design work is done and completed in place, and so what this allotment for $55,000, that's the purchasing and installation of everything, the baskets, the concrete pads, and everything that goes along with it.
Good.
So
Good.
we will be doing a lot of the clearing ourselves in-house, the park maintenance. If this is approved and scheduled for next year, then a lot of that will start internally this fall and into winter, be one of our winter projects.
Okay.
Yeah, where would it be located? I know where.
At Havens Park. So so there's a map.
Isn't where that circle is, where you go in and
Right.
where you've closed it off?
So do you have this,
okay, I got you.
Commissioner?
Yeah, I got
Wilson?
you. I
Do
see
have
what you're talking about.
Yeah, so to orient you, that's the back circle, right? So basically, there'll be a few holes. If you're looking at that picture, Ottawa Street, north is up, so Ottawa Street is the street up north, and on the right-hand side, that's 22nd. You can see, it's pretty small, but you can see our new restroom building in that picture. And those are some of the holes right there. And then, and you'll notice on that picture, and that you'll see A and B, so there'll be different baskets, different hole lengths for each hole where you can play. It would be 18 holes, but you can play, beginners can play something a little shorter, and then tournaments can play longer and stuff like that.
We had a tournament, where would people park?
So we had a lot of discussion about that. If it's a big tournament, then it'd be down in the sports field.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's just along Ottawa there, up top of sports field number 1, there's 25 to 30 spaces there.
Okay, yeah.
And then probably potentially now that we've made that one way where you come up into the park and go one way out, potentially you could have a line of cars along one side of that drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, if we were to get a big tournament, then the parking would be probably down in the parking lot of sports field, and then at that point we would decide whether we if it's big enough, if we need to do shuttles or something like that. Right. Okay, next one is the Riverfront Park fence replacement. And this is the fence that is between the parking lot and the railroad tracks. So that's important to note because it's mainly vehicular traffic there. It's not down in the campground. The one down in the campground is fairly new. We replaced it not too long ago when we had some trees fall on it. This is up in the parking lot along the drive. It is in disrepair, as the pictures show. It's scheduled out a ways, just because it's along where people drive. If it was down where, by the campground where people are walking around the campsite, it would certainly be much.
We also scheduled it out that far, thinking of the new bridge coming through. We don't want to put a new bridge in, or a new fence in there.
Good point, Brian.
Yeah,
Good point, thanks for pointing that out, yeah.
good idea.
The next one is
Get the bridge
the,
done by then.
sir?
Let's hope to get the bridge done by then.
The next one is the gazebo park development. Through discussions in the past, we looked into what it would take to completely redevelop. This is at the 3rd and Delaware. We had our old existing lot where it was formerly known as Gazebo Park, where we had the gazebo. We had to remove that years ago because the wood was rotting. And then here a few years ago, when the buildings were torn down there at the actual corner, it made the lot bigger. So this obviously is a new item, new big item. It is, you'll see it's currently unscheduled. But it involves completely redoing that with the engineering and a gazebo either on Delaware or on the corner, with walkways and lightings and gardens and stuff like that. So it'd be a really neat project.
Yeah, it would. It's expensive.
The next one, for years we've talked about trying to add shade and overhead protection out at Sportsfield Park. We've put a number to that to, as you see there, it is also unscheduled. It takes quite a bit to go into that complex to cover. It would provide, twofold. It provides some shade out there. If anybody's been out there watching the kiddos play, it gets very hot out there. And then also kind of overhead protection for foul balls as well. So kind of get a little dual purpose out of that.
Yes.
And then the next one, that's just me putting it on the radar. We got a new facility over there at Cody Park. The restroom building itself was upgraded in 2013. It used to have a flat roof on it. We put a pitched roof on it with the sun tunnels and everything. But it's old. It functions just fine, which is why it's not scheduled. But if this continues to take off, like we think and hope it will, with tournaments and stuff, in a whole brand new area over there, it might be something to put on the radar. It's like, hey, if there's the opportunity to upgrade the facilities there, it would make some sense. And that is for a restroom and concession facility. So, and I'll turn it over to Brian after that.
All right. So next on our list is, the Woolman Park and Riverfront Community Center Drive and parking lot area. That is to mill out the drive there at the park, at Woolman Park, and then to mill and repave the parking lot behind the community center. So if you ever go through Woolman Park, you'll see lots of potholes and patches in the road and stuff. I have no idea how old that road is, but it's fairly old. Yeah. So it's in need of replacement there. So we have that scheduled for next year. Next on the list is replacement of the shingles roof at Woolman Park. So this would be to replace the bathhouse and locker room roof, as well as the pump house, which is across from on the other side of the pool. We had some pretty good leaks happening in that roof this past year, and we contacted a roofing company, and they highly suggest that we replace that roof as soon as possible. So we have that scheduled in for next year as well. Next on the list is the swimming pool lane lines at both the indoor and outdoor pool. These are the big blue lines that you see going down through the pool for lap swimming. They're at least 11 years old. As you can see, the chlorine and stuff on them, the wear and tear is just breaking down the plastic, and they're starting to fall apart. So we need to replace those and update those.
Yeah, that was nasty.
The next one after that is the training platforms. These are really used for swimming lessons and the instructors to help train and teach kids how to swim. So they're a vital part for our process in swimming lessons, and so we have that scheduled for next year. It's not a huge dollar amount, but it's a very helpful dollar amount.
Especially critical in the indoor pool. Outdoors we have the zero depth entry,
Right.
which helps a lot. But what is off the diving lanes there? It's 3.5, 4 feet. So when you got little kids, it helps to get them in the water without real
You
deep.
have to help, yeah. The next one you're going to see is the pump vault door. So out at our aquatics facility, Woolman, by the kiddie pool, we have a pump vault, which is where the equipment is held for all of our play features. I'm not sure why, but we don't have doors on that. We've had some makeshift doors for years and years and years, and so we need to take care of that safety concern and make that so we can rest easy without little kids having to fall in or worry about that. The next one is concrete repairs to the deck at Woolman Pool and some caulking along there. As you can see in some of the pictures that I have here, the caulking throughout the concrete is starting to pull apart. And over the winters and stuff, you get moisture down there, and then you get the freezing and thawing, and it just causes problems within the deck of the pool. So that is scheduled for 2026. Do you have any questions for that?
We had that done about 8 or 9 years ago. It's just something, concrete maintenance that needs to be done kind of on that type of interval to make sense.
The next one on the list is painting locker rooms, restrooms, office, and the break room out at Woolman Pool. As you can see in the pictures over the years, the locker rooms get graffitied. We have to paint over it. We don't have the exact match for the paint, and then it doesn't match, and you have splashes everywhere. In the offices and the break rooms and stuff, it's just showing wear. So that's what we have scheduled with that, and that's scheduled in 2026. Next is the restoration for both slides at Woolman Pool. These slides, as you can see, and some of the pictures need some gel coating done. The caulking within the slides, so the slides are made into sections. There's caulking in between there. They're starting to leak pretty bad, and then that'll give it a clean, fresh look. It's something that we have to do every about 10 to 15 years. So.
Yeah, and that's about when it was done last. It's right at about 10 years ago.
Okay.
Next on is painting and caulking of the floors in the pool itself at Woolman Park. That is another one that we have to do every 10 to 15 years. We like to do it before we get to 15 years. And as you can see, we're starting to have some pretty bad fading of the paint and the lines, the swim lanes, the caulking inside the pool is starting to fall out. And that, when we have that happen, we start to have leaks. And then we start having problems behind the pool walls. So that's another important one that we're going to need to get done sooner than later. We have that for 2027.
Okay.
And I would just add to that, in my opinion, that's stretching it a bit with the pool. It's hard to believe it's now in its 22nd season. Yeah. So.
And Lansing's just not catching up.
Talk about that.
We've been going 22 years strong.
There's some people don't like that swimming pool going where it's going.
So before,
I'm not one of them.
I go back to the funding, is there any more questions for Parks and Recs for Steve and Brian?
Skate park.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I didn't see anything regarding the skate park.
Right, so we've, that'll be coming out. We've started working on an RFP
Gotcha.
for that, for the expansion. Yep.
That's
Great
2024.
presentation.
That's this year.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah. So we got going on the pickleball, and then I got a couple projects there, that we got out to bid right now in the community center, and so, that's our next one.
Appreciate it.
Kind of like Commissioner Wilson, and when we did Stubby Park, we tried to time it where after the kids went back to school.
Yes, sir.
So there's probably going to be a portion of that skate park that we might have to close, the ramps on the east end. So that was kind of our thought process, was if we can somehow get a contractor in place and time this out, and then it would start maybe late August and September as the kids get back into school.
Appreciate it.
Which
Thank
makes sense. So,
Yes, sir.
or we think so. But yeah, it's right there.
Yes, sir. Gotcha.
On the indoor pool, when does the high school use it? Do they use it in the fall and the spring, or does swim season is in the spring? When is swim season, I guess?
So I think, and don't quote me because I might be wrong, but I think the men's and women's are different. I think one's in the spring and one's in the fall, so I think they use them both.
So they use it a lot.
Right. Now, these restorations will be in the summer, if we phase it over 2 summers, so it should not affect their swim season, if we do it that way.
And then when they do have swim meets there, where do the visitors sit when they're watching? Do they?
In the balcony
There's a balcony,
mostly.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a balcony up above.
Okay,
Right.
is that okay?
That'll be there'll be painting happening up there and stuff, but as far as the balcony itself, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got new flooring. It was part of our flooring project that we did. So it's got all new flooring up there.
Okay.
Other than that, there's just big, long benches for people to sit on.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Hey, Steve, I just have one quick question.
Sure.
One thing I was just wondering, with the elevator modernization project that you got listed there, just out of curiosity, do you know what it costs right now annually to maintain it as is right now?
So we have a contract with MEI, that's Minnesota Elevator, and they come out quarterly. And I can look that up and send the exact dollar amount. I think it's in the neighborhood of $200 every time they come out, and they check, the hydraulic system. They check the rollers, they check everything for wear. But I can certainly get you exact numbers on that.
Well, yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's not a huge, I was curious if this modernization was actually maybe gonna help us out a little bit more long-term in reducing maintenance costs or not, I wasn't sure.
It certainly will, especially starting with replacement parts. We don't anticipate to have to replace, all the stuff inside the buttons and everything. That all will become digitalized. And like I talked about, the rollers and the controller board and any maintenance they need to do on that, as well as the pump system. It's all hydraulically driven, obviously, and there's a hydraulic pump that runs all of that. So I would certainly anticipate that there'd certainly be a reduction in costs on the maintenance.
Cool.
That being said,
All right, thank you.
Sure. That being said, obviously we will have it inspected quarterly and keep going with that. But I would expect those costs to go down some.
No, that's perfect, I appreciate that, thanks.
Sure.
Anything else for the Parks and Recs?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
So if we could flip back to page 1 quickly, I just want to go over something that's right behind the second tab. Starting with below the second black line, you see the 2025 through 2029, and then a total number, and then unscheduled. So by flipping through these pages, we can see what's unscheduled for the items that we just talked about at a glance. There's nothing on page 1 or 2. I have you see the $1 million unscheduled for those pumper trucks. That's actually because we would need to, probably need to bond those. So before we order them, we don't bond them before we order them, but we'd have to get a resolution to approve the bond, to issue bonds before we actually order those trucks, because I don't think we're gonna be able to cash flow those at that time. If you go to page 4, you can see that the Elgin Street Sweeper and a service truck for Public Works are unscheduled. If you go to page 5, you can see the gym floor replacement is unscheduled, the gazebo park development, the overhead protection and shade at Sportsfield Park, and the Cody Park restrooms. So those are the unscheduled items in the capital project fund. And, obviously happy to discuss if you think things should get moved around, but this was our recommendation as for what we thought was most important with the funds that we have. Anybody have any questions about any of those? Okay, so we are gonna move to the streets fund. Before we flip to the streets fund, actually, I wanna talk about the funding of the streets fund, and that is on page 7. So you can see on the first 4 rows in the streets fund that the first 3, those are all transfers from the countywide sales tax fund. So the pavement management program, sidewalks and curbs are funded by the sales tax. And then every year we apply for, or we are allotted an amount of federal fund Federal fund exchange reimbursements. So they're basically reimbursing us for costs from the previous year. Those are ranging between $450,000 and $500,000 a year. So that is the funding for the streets program. And then Brian is here to talk to us about that. And the streets start on page 72.
This is our annual pavement management program. It's what we do every year when we mill an overlay or provide a surface seal on our streets. For the last number of years, it's been $2 million. This year, we are requesting a 5% increase each year. So 2025 would be 2.1 million, and then 5% increase on that would be 2.205 for the following year, and so forth. Our costs are increasing. If we hold the funding at 2 million, we can actually do less and less each year with the inflation that we're seeing. Honestly, 2.1 million is not enough. I mean, we'd like to see more. We're getting better at picking treatments and making sure we put the right treatment on the right road at the right time. And that's what's critically important. So we're better defining that. We do have a software program that we're using with Benish. He'll actually be coming here on the 28th to talk about next year's program. The annual sidewalk program, again, this is another annual program that we have. Each year we funded it $300,000. I think last couple of years it was around 190. And I think this year went to 300, and then in the future years we show 300,000. It is critical for us to improve our sidewalks because, anybody that's under 16 really can't drive. And anybody that wants to walk on the sidewalk needs a safe place to walk that meets ADA requirements. The nice thing about this, it also can be used to help when we go for safe routes to school projects. The money we need to have on the Violas project, a TA grant that we received, to do sidewalks from 10th to 22nd. This can help with our portion of the cost. This can be for all new sidewalks. It can be for gaps in existing sidewalks. And also in the past, when we've been doing street maintenance and our pavement management program, if we need to replace sidewalks as part of that project, we've actually been funding that out of our pavement management project. We can actually use this to fund that, so we can actually do more street repair. Similar with our annual curb program, at $116,000 per year. And again, this is something that can actually stretch our pavement dollars. You'll see a lot of the streets that we're doing. We do some localized pavement or curb repair and replacement before we overlay the street. We have in the past been funding that out of the pavement management program of $2 million. And this does allow us to use that $2 million or $2.1 million purely for the streets, and the curb repair and the sidewalk repair can come out of these other programs. Next item, on page 75, it's Wilson Avenue. And what I show you up there on the screen, that's actually the plans are complete for Wilson Avenue. We're done with those. We're ready to bid. This is a unscheduled project currently because of funding issues. We have been working with all the utilities out there saying this project will likely happen at some point in the future. And so our utility companies in the area are in the process of or have relocated their utilities outside of the construction zone. This is currently unscheduled. Total project cost is roughly $1.83 million, and that does include a 20% contingency for that project.
So I have 1.68.
Right, and then 20% contingency, because we don't know when we're gonna do it.
Okay, okay. And so if you look at page 75, you can see that there are 3 numbers in brackets. The $114,000 for the design costs has already been expended. The $603,000, that is the money from the ARPA fund that's been allocated to this project. That was what was left after everything else. And then $65,000 or $67,500 from Community Grants Fund. When we closed that fund, we transferred it over here to help fund the Wilson Avenue project. And then Waterworks is going to pay for half of moving the water.
Correct. The agreement we have with Waterworks is when there's a project that requires their water line to be relocated, they pay 50% and we pay 50%.
And that leaves 800, if we were to do this in 2025 before the prices go up, that leaves 815,000 that I don't have a funding source for, which is why the project's unscheduled at this time. Okay, before we talk about the grant management fund, or the grant matching project fund, I'd like you to flip back to page 8. So this is an overview of the projects in the grant planning and project fund. And you can see that the funding source is transfers from the general fund. So this fund theoretically originated in 2024. We actually moved some of the first money into this fund from the general fund in 2023. If you'll remember the reserves in the general fund, we finished 2023 with 56% reserves. So we are using those excess reserves above 30%, one, to fund the grant matching fund, and 2, to buy, so we can order the ladder truck for the fire department without having to bond it. So I'm going to transfer money, once we put a PO in for that fire truck, I'll transfer money from the general fund to the capital projects fund, and it'll just sit there, but it has to be allocated prior to ordering the truck. So with the money that we are moving over in 2024, we'll fund the 2025 projects, and then I'll need to fund a little bit more money in 2026 to fund these projects that have been identified, though I don't think we've got the grants on all of them approved yet, but we're working on them. They've been identified. So from that, I'll turn it over to Brian, and I believe the first one's on page 76.
Correct. 76 is our 10th and Lemon Street. We actually talked about that at our last commission meeting. We awarded a contract to Merge Midwest, and they partnered with JEO for the design of this intersection. This is a federal safety funding, and it's an 80-20 split, and we get $1 million, up to $1 million for construction engineering.
Good.
And the project could be 2026 as far as construction. The next one is on page 7 of 4th Street from Reese to Poplar. That's a City Connecting Link Improvement Program. That's what the CCLIP stands for. We requested a grant basically in the area of Tyertown. That road has fallen apart. And we received a $400,000 grant from KDOT to do that project. The total project cost is estimated at $594,000. So, and that one is currently in design with JEO. Next one is, we've applied for this grant. We haven't heard back yet. This is for our airport. It's important with all of our payments that we maintain what we have. Otherwise, we go into reconstruction. And so this is a pavement taxiway and apron seal that we would be doing. We talked to one of our local contractors, gave him the square footage as you see here, and then quoted us some budget numbers. And so we applied for a grant. The total cost would be $76,780. It's a 90% grant, and so the city's portion of that would be about $7,600. So we hope to hear back this year on that project.
That'd be good.
Next project is our downtown ADA sidewalk ramp, and again, at the last commission meeting, we approved a resolution of support for this project. The deadline to submit was at 11:59 p.m. on May 17th, and we made it. This is contingent upon, again, KDOT approval. Anticipated cost of the project is $475,000. KDOT would give us roughly $380,000, and it would be on the city for $95,000. If we don't get this, it's a project we need to do, but we'd have to bite off much smaller sections. And we anticipate working from Esplanade and working our way west to Broadway. The plans are complete. There'll be modifications if we get the grant, because we do have to follow some certain KDOT guidelines with the grant. But the plans are basically complete.
Any questions about the grant matching fund? No. So our next fund is the sewer fund. The summary is on starts on page 9. It's actually 2 pages, pages 9 and 10. You can see the very first line of numbers. The funding source is the operating budget, the sewer fund operating budget. It's completely self-contained. And these dollars are the dollars available for CIP projects after operating costs are covered. And then if you look at the second page, that dark brown line, that's the estimated balance in the capital reserves. That's in addition to the 30% reserves, target reserves that we have in the sewer fund for operating. Okay, so let's.
I have Tim and John here.
And we're starting on page 80.
Page 80 is basically, we need to maintain and replace what we have. And so we've been funding that at the proposed $500,000 per year. And that's for manhole and sewer line rehabilitation. What we found out, we've been working in the basins in the north part of town. We have a big I&I problem, which stands for inflow and infiltration. That's stormwater or groundwater just entering into our sanitary sewer system and overwhelm our system. If we have a 2 or 3 inch rain, instead of treating 3 men, we might run 10 million through that plant. And so we need to do things to correct that. What we've been doing in the past is we've been doing complete line replacement in a lot of areas. That's extremely expensive because you're doing those in established neighborhoods. So that's leading up streets and alleys and driveways and curbs and gutters and having to put all that back together. So what we found out working with GVA last year, they put flow meters in our sewer system in the areas that we'd already worked. And they did that I think about 12 years ago in 2012. And so we had a good baseline from 2012 and we could see how much improvement we had with all the work that we did. We saw improvement, but was it the cost benefit of that? How was that? And basically what the determination was, we need to do more manhole repair, we need to do more point repairs, and we need to look at lining our system where we can to avoid that complete replacement.
That sounds good.
And so $500,000 a year will go towards doing a lot of that work. Then on page 81, it has a whole list of items on page 81. A lot of those are determined by the assessment that we had done. HDR a couple of years ago came in and did a complete assessment of our equipment at our wastewater treatment plant. We needed to know what the short-term needs were, the 1 to 3, the 5 to 10, and the long range were. We have a lot of equipment that is very old. The plant was built in 1970. 1970s. And a lot of the equipment is original vintage 1970s. So we can find parts on eBay, or we can sell parts for antiques on eBay, but it's, a lot of the stuff is obsolete. And so the list that you have there going from 2025 to 2029 mirrors what that report says, except for a few things, which we'll go through here. We funded some in 2024. I'll let Tim talk to asphalt pavement, which is first on that list.
Well, that was in this one.
It's first on that list.
Oh, we're gonna go through this whole list?
Yeah, the first one. No, we're just gonna go through what you have on the first.
Yeah, but that's all.
First one was asphalt.
The asphalt down at the plant, you know, it's flooded several times down at the plant. And with that flooding, it's torn up the asphalt down there, so there's a lot of cracking, and with the heavy trucks running over that, it's made, you know, bad dips in it, so that's part of the asphalt repair and resurfacing. That's gonna be done over several years to do the whole plant.
Right, we started in 2024, we have a project in 2024, we're also funding in 25 and 26, just so we can get it done in sections. The pictures that Tim has up there are pretty representative of the pavement there. That's not a surface seal, that's pretty much a rework on this.
Yeah, we just took some of the buildings and put it in the deep holes, so as much as we want. That was one thing off that list. Second one is non-potable water system. We use that system to run our press and help seal some of the pumps down at the plant. If we don't have this system, we have to use water from the water department, we have to pay for it. Currently, we can't get enough pressure on our press, so we're using water from the water department, which is making a big bill for us because we go through a lot of water on the press because we run it every day. So repairing this system and the lines to get that pressure back up is why we're doing this one here.
I mean, from a water perspective, I mean, we're seeing a bill in the $3,000 to $4,000 range
Where it should be
every month because the system isn't providing what we need.
Yes, providing the pressure. That we've had several breaks in the lines throughout the plant, so. The next one is, we are getting a new office building sometime soon, maybe, I don't know. And with that, the price has gone, you know, what we put in there's gone down, so we're gonna need extra furniture to furnish the building. So part of that is that. Then when we finish moving, we like to take the old space that was offices and turn it into storage. So to decommission that building and make it storage. So that's the other half for 25. So that's 25 in one, doing the other one in 2026. All right, the next one is Hallmark. It's a lift station that pumps from a low spot back up to the top to gravity. Over the last couple of years, we've had a couple breaks in this line. It's put it in the 70s. So we need to get it repaired, keep the breaks from happening. It's crucial. We don't, you know, go out in the system, let it go out of the system. So we've done it through several years too, doing systematically repair the line in certain parts years. So not all at once, to kind of cut the cost down over the years.
And this is located just kind of it's on the north side of Leavenworth, just west of Home Depot.
Okay.
And it pumps straight east under 4th Street to around Luxury Imports, and then turns and goes up to Bizek Ford.
Bizek Ford is where it goes back to gravity.
That's a pretty good run.
Yeah. Okay.
And the next one is just another lift station. We have a couple pumps that have been in there for a long time too. They probably, since the 80s, they need to be replaced as well. We have 4 lift stations. We're only gonna do 2. We actually did the VA here recently, but the VA reimbursed us for doing that one, so that one was easy. The 4th lift station is fairly new, so we won't have to do that one. There's just 2 that we need to do to update those. With that, you know, them pumps are old, it's hard to get parts, they're all obsolete, so, you know, just updating them. Very good. Next one is replacement of our 1985 small pump, small flush truck. And we use that one to get back in the fields when we have to clean out the fields. you know, we have the big flush trucks, but we can't get those into the fields, so we need something smaller to get in tight spaces and back in fields. Like I said, this one is an 85 Ford truck, been there quite a long time. We'd like to update it, the pump on it has been rebuilt, so to update that will help us a lot, we won't have to pay to keep it in repairs.
So this one we go with the trailer mounted.
Yes, trailer mounted.
And so we can actually pull over another truck to get it in.
That's a manual truck, and we don't have too many people that can drive that one either anymore, so every time they do, they seem to burn the clutch out. So.
Don't we teach that anymore? Not us, driving schools. I learned on a 5-ton truck.
The next one is just the camera truck, you know, it's life expectancy is 10 years, want to replace that, get that into a new one, you know, this allows us to prove to accurately diagnose issues, pinpoint repairs, the location to reduce time for maintenance.
Okay.
And this truck is used
Every day.
every day. And it's not just sanitary sewer.
Everything you need, storm sewers, anything that needs inspected, it's underground, we use them. Next one is, this is an old flush truck that we have for backup. So the new truck is gonna be 10 years old when we're ready to replace it. That will put this one at 20 years old. This backup truck still gets used by us when our main truck is down. It's used by the stormwater when they need to clean stormwater out. So whoever needs to use this truck, everybody still uses it, but we use it as a backup for our primary truck. So this one will be 20 years old, like I said, it's time to get it replaced. We have to do a lot of repairs and maintenance on this one. Just kidding, yeah. So as Brian was talking about the I&I, down by the river, we have some super old manholes. We got a picture like of bricks that are barely holding together.
They don't make it all.
Yeah, they don't make it all. So there's a lot of these along the river that we need to get updated, replaced, and sealed up, so hopefully when it floods and rains and stuff, we don't get as much I&I down at the plant. Like Brian said, we usually run 3.5. During a good rain, we can get up to 10 million, so we're trying to find ways to seal that off.
Okay.
The next one is, my guys have a utility vehicle they use to haul tools around and parts and whatever they need. They use it daily, they use it for walk-arounds. So this will be a 10-year-old, it'll just be a replacement, and I think that's set up for 2029, so it'll be time to get that one replaced.
This is one of those ones that we didn't have it, we bought it several years ago, and you don't know how you survive without it.
It's a cute little thing, I wouldn't mind having one. Yeah.
And again, this is just a dump truck, it meets its 20-year replacement schedule. You know, we use those to haul sludge from the plant down to the landfill daily. We have 2 trucks, we usually 2 trucks a day, so that puts a lot of miles down to the dump on those. So they're trying to get them replaced, crucial part of our operations down there.
Okay.
Keep those up and running.
And then the only other item we have on there that we talked about, we do have a utility storage building identified out at the wastewater plant. And this is a picture, this is a 30 by 40. So this would be something about what we're looking for. It's funded in 2027 at $300,000. It keeps our equipment out of the elements in the dead of winter. The other thing that happens is we have some of the older equipment, it rains on it, that we have leaks, it goes in the ground, and that's something that we're trying to get away from. So put those under cover to keep the fluid well contained.
Any questions for this group?
Thank you, guys.
So if we flip back to page 9, which is the summary for the sewer fund, again, you can see the unscheduled column. And the reason items are unscheduled is because this bottom number, starting in 2026, is pretty low. So we didn't want to schedule all of the available CIP money in case there was an emergency and we had to pull something up. if there are no such emergencies, maybe we can pull some of these things from the unscheduled column. But what we scheduled were the things that we absolutely have to have. I mean, Brian and Tim will tell you, we absolutely have to have these other things that are unscheduled, but there just wasn't enough money to schedule everything at this moment. The refuse fund is next.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Page 11, the funding source for the refuse fund is the operating budget, and the money available for CIP is after operating expenses, and there is a, we expect to have about $1 million in the capital reserves for the refuse fund at the beginning of 2025. We're, we'll be using that for the program that we'll be discussing, page 93.
Hi.
Yep, this is a loader that we use for solid waste. I think it's a 2009.
That's not a picture of the current one.
That's not ours.
That's
The floorboard inside is rusted all the way through, so you can see the ground. The cab itself is rusted all the way around the bottom. So one of these days we're gonna turn the corner and the cab's gonna fall off. We use it down at the brush site mostly to push up brush into the piles so they can burn it. But if we have like several trees down, we're trying to get out, street department has a front loader that they use, and then we'll get this one so we can do multiple scenes at the same time. But yeah, if any of you have seen the one that we have down there, it's in bad shape.
You mentioned trees. I mean, so far we're aware of 3 trees down today that are impacting us. We had another tree down actually on 5 Mile Creek at Shrine Park that landed on top of 24-inch sanitary sewer main. Didn't break it, but I mean, we have to be prepared for events like this. And so we use this for one thing, but it'll be followed up.
And how old is our current front end loader? The one we're
It's a
replacing?
2009.
2009,
I
okay.
may be off a year, it could be a 2008.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And then the next is our roll-off. We have 2, and one of them, this one is to be replaced in
2026.
26, okay. And this is the one that we use for all of our containers up at the recycle first Saturday to haul the containers down the road. They're getting in pretty bad shape. The one up is down more than it's up, and it goes down the road. So it's actually costing us more in maintenance than it's worth right now. And the next is just the trash truck replacement. This one, will it be the sidearm? I don't remember what Steve put in there. Yeah, this one will actually be the sidearm loader, which will help a lot with the cans. It will also speed up picking up the refuge. But I mean, right now they're right on time all the time, so that shouldn't be.
How old is it?
But the side loader will help a lot.
I'm not laughing.
I was going to say, too soon, Derek, too soon.
Yeah.
It's late and that was too soon.
We have the 2 trucks. We've been putting tippers on the back of the existing truck. We work in an area that has cars parked on both sides of the streets.
Yeah.
You can't use a sidearm.
Yeah.
You just can't reach in there and get them. And so we have to maintain in our fleet ones that have tippers on the back.
Right.
But in a lot of the newer areas where we have less cars parked on the street, the sidearm can go and just be just a driver, pick it up.
So it just grabs it and...
Yeah.
That's
That
what
way
they do
they'll
down in
keep,
my
having
daughter's neighborhood.
the people on the back, so if we do have people that call in sick, we're not down, you just need a driver, that's all it needs.
That's cool.
Got it.
So we show this in 2026 and again in 2028, just replacing on a replacement cycle our truck. This is a very rough environment, stop, go, stop, go, stop, go, drive to Shawnee, stop, go, stop, go. It's hard on our truck.
And we have 5 trucks?
6.
6. So we replace one every other year. By the time we get around, they're 12 years old.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to talk over my boss. Okay. Page 96 is the Stormwater Capital Projects Fund. I don't think we need to flip back for that. The funding for the Stormwater Capital Projects Fund is the fee, the assessment fee that is on everybody's tax bill.
And so this is just a list of projects that we're gonna be doing in 2025, 26 and 29. A lot of projects shown in 2025. 500 Lemon Street is one of them. I'll just pull out. That's actually by the guidance center.
Yes.
Right there. If you go by there, you'll see an orange fence in the parking lot. We replaced a cross limit a few years ago to that inlet. There's a corrugated metal pipe that goes from that inlet and dumps back to the creek to the northwest. And that pipe is completely rusted out. And so it's a large hole in the parking lot. And so we need to go from that inlet back to the creek and replace all of that.
Okay.
We take a call that once a week on that one. There's the other orange fence projects. You'll see 20th and Seneca. There's been orange fence around that inlet for, I think, since before I started. That's currently in design. I'm also doing 6th and Spruce is in design. 9th and Osage has been designed. It's a project that's shovel ready, so we can get that out on the street in 2025. The bridge that you see there on 18th and 3 Mile Creek, that one's identified. The feds have determined that that is a critical structure. We talked earlier tonight about needing to do bridge inspections every 2 years. They came back because of a scour issue on that one where the water flows under the bridge and it kind of digs out a hole on the downstream side. They've identified that as a critical structure that we need to now inspect every year until we get that fixed. And so that's why that's in here, to fix that scour hole, to put that back on a 2-year inspection cycle. And miscellaneous bridge repairs, that would typically be like 5th Street over 3 Mile. If you drive just south of City Hall on 5th Street, you'll see the bridge deck on that is in horrible shape. And so that's, we're working with a company right now for core samples off the bridge to see, it's about a 2-inch asphalt overlay over an 8-inch concrete deck over concrete beams. And so we're trying to determine the condition of the concrete deck, and we're hoping to replace that in 2025.
Where's this hole?
Oh, that would actually be in Doherty Park.
Oh.
That's where the food truck.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That was it? Okay, wow.
I saw that right after it happened.
Next to the elevators.
We're gonna be seeing more and more of those.
Yeah.
I mean,
That was shocking.
we
Is
have
that
the
the
corrugated
bridge?
metal pipe.
Close to tragic, too.
Yes,
Right.
really silly.
Corrugated metal pipe we use forever. This one's actually brick pipe, which it lasted a really long time.
Yeah.
But our corrugated metal pipes rust out on the bottom. We don't know it, and so what happens is the ground around it kind of comes up and washes downstream, and all of a sudden.
And they flatten down.
So will we be seeing it in certain parts of town or throughout town?
It's
This
mostly
area?
in the older parts of town where the older piping system is. Under roads, we started, before my time, but they started going with concrete pipe under the roadways. Those will have a longer life. And so anytime we do a project, it's concrete pipe under any sort of pavement. But once you get away from the pavement, we still do allow like a corrugated metal pipe, because that failure is not as bad.
So I want to talk about this fund a little bit. The assessment fee that we collect at this time is about $1.3 million. We have a person that's halfway allocated to this fund that does the GIS mapping and that sort of thing. Other than that, all of the money goes into these projects. The problem is that after we did the project at 2nd and Chestnut, we borrowed $1.9 million for a project that ended up costing $4 million. So at the end of 2023, I believe we had $24,000 in that fund. Brian has a very long list of identified projects that must be completed. And that we are starting those in 2024 with the assessment fee that we're collecting in 2024, and then they're continued in 25 and 26. But all of these things that need to be done today, we're not going to get them done until 2026 with the money that we have. If there's another sinkhole like this one in Doherty Park, that has to be fixed first. So these projects are going to get pushed back. So the theme that you're hearing is $1.3 million a year is not enough for our aging infrastructure. I'm just going to plant the seed right now. In the operating budget, you're going to see that I'm requesting a 5% increase in that stormwater fee. I know that's a rather sensitive subject, but we are running into, I'll call this an emergency situation where we just can't. $1.3 million was a lot more 5 years ago than it is today. So something has to give here. And right now it's our streets and our, that's what's giving. And we need to be able to fix them when they occur. So.
And there's no grants for this kind of stuff, like geriatric city grants.
Not for these types of projects. We look for anything we can find.
Yeah.
But, as an example, I think 2 steps forward, or 1 step forward, 2 steps back. I mean, 6th Avenue and Chestnut is closed. It's an old arch structure.
Yeah.
Guy was mowing and they almost lost his mower down a hole. And then, it became a very dangerous situation. We completely closed it down. That's designed. We're doing that one this year in 2024. That wasn't on our radar.
Right.
And so Doherty Park wasn't on our radar until
It
food
happened.
trucks, at a 45-degree angle.
Right.
So these things come up. We have all these great plans. We want to do these. We need to do these projects, and these other projects jump up.
Right, so we've scheduled out to 2026 using every penny with things that are on our radar, but tomorrow there's going to be something that's more urgent. So I've got some concerns around that.
Any questions about the last piece there?
No.
So just I'll make some quick closing comments. So I hope that you can see the hard work of the staff, really poured over every project, did the very best that they could to identify those things that we need to do versus really, really need to do. Very, very quickly, a reminder, essentially what you're doing is approving 25, okay? The rest of it is just a plan, right? And if things change, then we would have the ability to alter that. But it really is about a commitment to 2025. So I would offer you this in terms of how we intend to proceed with this. So we will still schedule the day-long meeting with the commission to talk about the operation budget. What we'll do is build in some time in the morning to talk about these projects. Unless, of course, you want to spend some time tonight talking about a particular project. We've been here for a while. We don't need to, we certainly could do that, but we don't need to do that. There will be, again, more time for you to advocate amongst yourselves which projects you want up and which projects you don't. And then finally, because a project in here is not unscheduled, we don't suggest to you that we can't do it. But if you were to advocate and say, we want to move this project up, we would then be tasked with going back and looking where to move something and replace that. Or, in terms of things like bigger projects, we have the ability to do some things. We've mapped out alternatives. And so this is not in any way written in stone. It's simply a proposal. It is what we came up with as a recommendation. And from here on out, we can work our way through whatever options that you would agree and task us to do that with. So that's kind of where we are. I think that is scheduled for like June
20th of June.
Yeah, it's scheduled that day. We will spend some time talking about the CIP again and then go through the operational budget. So just wanted to close with that. Unless you have any other questions or comments, that's our presentation this evening.
Thank you to the staff for all the hard work.
Yeah, that's, going through all that, preparing all this. Roberta, thanks.
Well, and
And
Andrew?
and everybody else that was involved.
It is important to look ahead in the next few years and
yeah.
see what's coming down the pike as well.
Sure.
I've never done this before, so is this how we normally do it? We get this?
No. This is a new way of doing it.
It's a little bit of a change. What we used to do is do it all in one day, give you everything all in one day.
On the 28th.
Right, so our experiences on
20,
these project-type discussions tend to have a little bit more discussion amongst the commission about which projects we want to do and don't do, that sort of thing. So this was a little bit of a change, more information upfront, give you a lot of time, longer time to think about it, figure out, what ultimately you want to agree to commit to, and so that's what this is.
I thought this was great. I love the purpose description. The pictures were great.
Right.
I mean, everything's very thorough, so thank
I
you
like
to.
this, yeah, I
So-
like this a lot better and being able to look at it a longer time before we actually
Yeah.
come to the.
And just so you all know, 90% of this work Andrew did.
Great job.
So, I mean, I was working on the audit and getting ready, closing the year. And, I obviously helped a lot with the number crunching and how do I want things formatted. But the work was done by Andrew, so I don't want you looking at me and saying thank you. You look at Andrew.
Andrew, you make her look good.
Yeah.
And that's always nice, right? But I would like him, he gets most of the credit
I
for
know
the
we
work.
want to get out of here. One last question.
No.
So the day of the budget, just, again, I've never done that. Is that when people come in as well and talk to us from outside? Or is that just?
So that is generally done at the commission meeting in which the governing body would be voting to approve the budget, is generally if you're gonna have.
Like Main Street?
No, she's asking about the actual budget day where we discuss the budget.
Yes.
The day long, the June 28th
Yes.
It'll be
day.
similar to this in that the department directors will cycle back through and talk about the operational piece of the budget, like we'll be talking about potential,
Okay.
pay adjustments and that kind of thing.
Yeah, the library, Main
Those groups,
Street,
yes, I'm sorry.
LCDC,
We're gonna do that
they
here, we're
will
gonna
come
do it down
in
here.
and present their budgets, yes.
Okay.
We
I
have,
think the last time we did it here.
we've always done it here, as best I can recall.
If we'll
I think the
suspend-
question was, is there maybe the Riverfront Community Center, we've always done it
one
here.
time there.
Yeah, as best I
Did
can
we do it
remember.
down there?
Was that goal
Was
setting?
that something else?
That's because of COVID. Remember, we had to spread out.
Yeah.
Spread out,
Yeah.
so we would anticipate
Okay.
doing that here.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this is great, give us plenty enough time
Yeah.
to ask questions, think of some solutions, and I thank you all.
No problem. And it certainly would offer that if you have questions individually, hey, give me some more explanation about this particular item, let's in here, certainly reach out, and we're glad to help you with that.
Appreciate it.
Sounds good.
Do I have to make a motion to adjourn?
I don't think so.
Done?
No, we're
It's a
done.
study
All right,
session.
we're done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Martin, are you good?
Oh,
Yeah, I am.
Okay, all right.
Thank you very much,
We're good.
yeah, we gotta find, the money's in the
Thank you all
treasury.
that stayed for the whole thing, I appreciate your support.
I have nothing semi-soft to throw, so.
Listen, we gotta find the money in the changing gas.
All
All right, Nancy.
Apparently it's spent 12 times over.
Nancy,